Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tyler Reiser and from Palo Verde Pools, and today I'm going to go over a couple of ways to increase value through pools. I saw an interesting stat the other day that every 3.5 minutes a real estate agent leaves the industry, which is crazy, 3.5 minutes. So with that in mind, if you can find something to differentiate yourself, know a little bit more about something, especially something like pools, right, it's going to increase the value for your clients. So again, I'm a luxury pool designer. I am a licensed real estate agent here at PRG as well. And I used to be a national speaker in the real estate investment education space for assisted living for about 3 to 4 years before this. I decided to jump into pools because I got more passion for it. I love seniors and I love assisted living. I love real estate. But pools to me are just really fun. And it's a fun product to sell because when someone wants to buy a pool, it's not something you have to twist their arm for normally, right? It's just an exciting product, right? Now, the pool market itself, there's 800,000 pools in Texas, and San Antonio alone has 3,400 pool listings right now. I hope that's accurate. I just pulled it off, realtor.com. But how many of you have dealt with pool listings? I know you said you have one coming up. Mm-hmm. Have you dealt with them? Okay, awesome. When you list the pools, I'm going to go over some of the different high ticket items to actually put in that listing description, because I've noticed a lot of agents just say, beautiful pool in the backyard, right? But you're really cutting yourself short and the value of the home short, because you need to really say what that pool actually includes, right? And also the warranties that could be with the pool, because some warranties are transferable from the original pool builder, which is great. Now, in terms of marketing listings with pools, I'm going to cover some things such as design, plaster type, cleaning systems, the type of construction, some of the materials. Again, don't feel like you have to be an expert, because this took me a long time to learn myself. You can always call me if you have any questions as far as the pool listing goes, but I'm going to teach you some of the basics, things to look at and say, okay, that's worth 10,000, that's worth 15, that's worth 20. That way you can at least know if this pool is valuable or if it's not. So let's talk about some of the basic design trends. Geometric is the most popular right now. I rarely get a request for a freeform pool. Freeform is great, but that was a really big deal back in the 90s and early 2000s. We're really seeing a lot more of the geometric type, modern looking pools, especially with these nice raised beams back here and water features coming out of the walls. Now, I will say this, if your client, wants a freeform, that's fine, or if they have a freeform, it's okay. Then you want to look at what's actually inside the pool to create value. So a couple other things to look at, and this is how you know if you have a luxury pool versus just an average pool. A 360 spillover spa. I put this on a lot of my designs. They're not all that much more expensive than a regular pool and a spa, but it's a really nice effect to have that water flowing over. So if you see a 360 spillover spa, you know you have a good pool most likely. Catch basins. A catch basin is what creates that infinity edge look. We were talking about that earlier, right? Mm-hmm. Now the infinity edges add about $20,000 to $30,000 to a pool. So the reason why is because you're building a second pool below the pool. So it's actually two pools in one. So if you ever see a catch basin below a pool, you know that pool is probably $20,000 to $30,000 more already. Now the other design trends that we're seeing are metal scuppers coming out of the walls. Those are a really nice feature. The floating steps as well, we do those in a lot of our pools. By the way, these are all of our pools from Palo Verde that I'm showing you too as we go through. Some other things that add some really high ticket items. These are things that you should list in your listing description. These things called magic bowls right here. It's a water feature. They light up at night. They look really cool. Those alone are about $4,000 a piece, which is crazy. Bar stools in the water. It's just a nice upgrade, right? But those are pretty expensive too. Iridescent mosaic tile. It's right here on the spillover for the spa. That's an upgrade. Anytime you see smaller than the 6x6 tile, so 6x6 is the standard just square tile that you see. If you see the smaller 1x1, it's 1 inch by 1 inch, it's an upgrade. So any kind of mosaic tile, it just takes more labor, it takes more time to install, and then more expensive to buy. So you know you have a luxury pool if you see that as well.
The magic bowls, they just spill over back into the primary pool?
Exactly. Now here's the difference between an infinity edge and a faux edge. With the infinity, you can actually see that it has that catch basin below. Let me replay this real quick. With the faux edge, this is actually one of my designs on the right, it just stops, right? So the water's gonna sit right about here, and you can still have a really nice look with a faux edge, but they're much cheaper than the infinity edge because you're not having to pay for that secondary pool below, right? The reason why infinity edges are so much more expensive is because you have all that tile on the face right here. And then you also have the catch basin below, which is more plaster, more rebar, more gunite, and you have to have a whole second pump for the pool to push that water back. So with that in mind, if your clients are looking for, to sell their pool, I would definitely highlight the difference between an infinity edge and a foam edge.
Okay.
Now let's take a look at this listing analysis. And if somebody watching this, if this is their listing, I'm sorry, but I had to pick it apart. So this is out in Cordillera Ranch, and see how they just mentioned resort, infinity pool, and spa with a fire pit and outdoor living space. Now what's the problem with that? Is that an infinity edge or is that a faux edge? It's a faux edge, right? So it's actually wrong. It's actually just a faux edge. So that alone can get you in trouble in the listing too, because that's not the same pool that they're actually describing, right? It's a $20,000 to $30,000 mistake, right?
Okay.
Here's what I would have said instead. It's a geometric faux edge pool overlooking the beautiful Texas Hill Country, featuring a spillover spa, natural boulder, planter walls, etc. And also too, if there's any transferable warranties, you want to put that in there as well, because it's very important. Companies like Palo Verde Pools will put a lifetime warranty on the shell of the pool, and that is transferable one time to the next owner. So you need to ask your client, who did you actually buy the pool through, and then see in their contract they can provide it to you if that warranty is transferable, because that is really valuable. Things like decking is usually covered. The pool equipment has 3 years of warranty on it as well. Depends on the manufacturer, of course, but we put a 3-year warranty on all of our pool equipment. Let's take a look at one more. So this one just says it's a pool with a hot tub, right? But there's so much more to this pool that you could really point out, right? There's the bar stools in the water. There's the nice flagstone coping that goes around it. There's the spillover feature from the spa. You can see that. So here's what I would have said instead. So again, it's just another way to market it if you know the value of the pool. And also too, if you guys ever don't know what's in your pool, you can just text me a photo and I'll point out the features for you. So you guys can actually say, this is what's in it. Because there's so many features that to most people they don't see them, but if you're a pool designer, you can point those things out. The other thing I want to talk about is the plaster on the pool. The plaster is really important. There's a few different types. There's pebble sheen, there's quartzscape, and there's wet deck. Wet deck was used way back in the day, right? Not so much anymore. Quartzscape is the most popular for cheaper builders. So it's kind of like your Blue Haven pools, kind of like your big volume builders, right? Most luxury to mid-market builders will use pebble sheen. And it's really important to know the difference between those two or three. So pebble sheen, quartzscape, and wet deck. And again, you guys can always just text me on these as well. I can tell from a photo if it's a pebble sheen versus a quartzscape. Now, the reason why this is important is because the quartzscape will actually degrade over time. And so it's going to become really rough. It's going to have a lot of discoloration in the pool. It's going to have a lot of imperfections, right? The pebble sheen is the highest quality that you can put on a pool, in my opinion, and it's going to last you about 10 years if you maintain your chemicals. So pebble sheen is just like the name. It has a bunch of pebbles in it, right? It's going to feel really smooth and soft. The color is going to be perfect all throughout, and the warranties are the best on pebble sheen. So just keep that in mind. It could cost your buyer of a pool anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 to have to replaster that pool if the plaster is bad. So just keep that in mind too. Let's talk about the in-floor cleaning system. These are really easy to spot, and this is just the alternative to having that robot going through the pool cleaning. So the in-floor cleaning system is all those little PVC pipes you see sticking up right there in the middle of the pool. And what those do is they have a little spray head on the bottom that sprays 360 degrees. It'll push all the debris towards a drain for you, and then that'll be just put into a skimmer basket. So it removes the need to have a robot, but it's a $10,000 upgrade. So if you see a bunch of heads in the bottom of the pool, which if you send me a photo of it, I can probably point it out, that's a $10,000 upgrade alone right there. So it's really something to say in your listing description. It's very important. Some other features to list, I already pointed some of these out, but like the magic bowls, $4,000, all the way up to a raised beam, which has the shear descents coming out of the wall. That can be up to $15,000. It just depends. Transferable warranties, already mentioned those. Pavilions have become super popular. I do a lot of pavilions and pergolas on my pools, but those are really pricey. Those are anywhere between $15,000 to $20,000 on the high end. I just sold one that was actually $25,000, had an outdoor kitchen. So those are definitely something to highlight, but also, again, they have their own warranties, right? We go through Cover Timberworks for ours. It's a great company if you guys ever need one. But point those out, because if it has a metal roof, that's an upgrade, right? That's more value. So if they spend $25,000 to $30,000 on a pavilion, put that in the description. So here's a simple checklist. I just want you guys to have to be able to look at your listings. Again, is it geometric, or is it freeform? Is it essentially straight edge, or is it curvy? Point out the trending design features, and then listing the high ticket items. So the in-floor cleaning system, that's probably the biggest one and the easiest to spot. The water features, the pavilions, the warranties, and the plaster. Right? Plaster's most important. All right, now on the buyer side, so we went over some listing information, but if you're working with a buyer, one of the most important things to look for are easements, right? You can actually go into most building setbacks and most HOAs they'll allow you to, unless you're in a place like Cordillera Ranch where they don't hardly allow anything, right? They're very strict. But in most places, you can actually go into a building setback. You do have to stay at least 5 feet off the fence. So keep that in mind when you're out looking with buyers to see, hey, do we have enough room? In this particular case, I wanted to show you the survey because this client came to me and said, hey, I want to build a pool, but we have a 30-foot water easement back here. So they can't build anything past this line, which is crazy. So again, before they actually bought the house, the agent didn't tell them. But they said, I wish my agent would have known, because we're really upset now. We can't have the pool that we want to have. But if you're a trained agent, you can actually see these things, right? So again, water easement, you can't build into, right? A building setback, you can, most of the time. So here's what I did for this design. I built it right up against that line. It's not a beautiful pool by any means, right? But they still wanted one. So, all right, so what adds cost to a pool? So if you have a client who's looking at a backyard and they're on a budget, right? The most important thing is to avoid yards with extreme slope. The more slope, the more expensive it gets. So just remember this, the lower to the ground, the lower in price the pool is, typically. The reason why is because the higher out of ground you are, the more rebar, the more gunite, the more plaster, you're just adding everything exponentially, right? If anything is 4 feet or more out of ground, like this pool here is at least 4 feet out of ground, we have to double cage that side of the pool with rebar. So that's double the steel that you have to use, so it's more expensive, right? The other thing is we mostly base our pricing on pools based on perimeter and square footage. So again, the bigger the backyard, if they want a bigger pool, the more the price. That's pretty obvious, right? But just remember the most important thing is avoid backyards with a lot of slope if they want to keep the pool below 100,000. It's very important. All right, this is the most important one. If you get anything from this presentation, take this one home. If you have a client looking for a pool, it's access is the biggest issue. This is one of my clients' houses on the left. The neighbors on the right wouldn't let us go through their yard because we need 8 feet of access. On the other side of the house, it was a new construction home from Meritage Homes. They wouldn't let us go through their yard because the home hasn't sold yet. So we're just out of luck on this one, right? You can't even get through the yard because we need at least 8 feet to get that excavator around the HVAC right there. So again, you need at least 8, preferably 9 feet on the safe side to be able to even build a pool.
So with this one, there was no access, so it's just on a standstill?
There's a no-go so far. So
Okay.
It's been crazy. I had to call the landlord. Actually, let me back up. I called the agent who sold him the home, who gave me the owner's phone number, who then said that he's in Mexico. So I have to wait, and it was a long story short. But anyways, we got in touch with the landlord. He said, I want to wait until my tenants actually get in the home to see if they're okay with us building the pool, because it's going to damage the yard a little bit,
Yeah.
right? But we did get the approval, a soft approval from him, but we just need him to sign a neighbor access agreement. So the neighbor access agreement is really important because it protects the homeowner and it protects the building company, it protects the neighbor as well, right? As far as letting us access their yard, it just says that we're going to repair any of the grass, any damage to the fence, etc. So
in this particular one here, let's say the neighbor said, no problem. All that stuff I'm looking at here, you would still be able to,
yes,
be able to
exactly.
make it? Is that enough room?
Yeah, so there is about, I forgot the exact measurement between the HVAC and the house. I want to say we had about 9 feet, is really tight, but we could do it. But we are going to use about 2 feet on their side. So it is going to damage their yard. So we have to get approval, right? These are tough, and so this is really important when you are shopping for houses with your clients, because you really have to have access. So there's a lot of people that want a pool in San Antonio, but not every home can actually have one. So, all right. This is pretty much the end of the presentation, but again, you don't have to be the expert. You guys can always call me, text me. If you have a listing you guys want me to analyze, I'll do that for you. If you want us to attend showings with you, I've done that with agents before, where we'll actually come out to the backyard to take a look at it and say, this is the type of pool you could have, and this is the space you could work within, and is the access okay? Is there natural gas? Is there propane? All the things that we think about, right? I could be there for you to help your clients through that process. So, also too, if you do want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I do post a lot of my designs and new builds, so feel free to do that as well. But awesome.